So I took over running Custom Heat when I was 24. We have salespeople that come here and go, "Oh, so-and-so's charging this much for this." I don't give a shit. And I actually ended up home some days in tears. Oh, the pressure was that much as a young lad. If you can't sell a job for £200 more and get our values across, then you really need to go back to selling school.
To be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I would never turn up to a customer's house in a flashy car. I'd go in a really clean, tidy, polished van. I'd put some nice, shiny shoes on. I'd look like not like an estate agent. Brain surgeons will earn £1,000 an hour. Plumbers will earn maximum £100 an hour or less, depending on area and other factors that go in. So we have to do a lot of work to earn the same money. People that are quite smart have to do a short amount of work for.
Hi guys, everybody. I just want to welcome you to Custom Heat. I've come down from Bolton today. Those who are familiar with my podcast, it's Don't Get Left Out in the Cold. I'm sat here now with Link, and we're going to talk about his business, how he got into the business, where it started, the journey, everything about the actual process from apprentice or school leaver going forward. So thanks very much for having us, and it's going to be a great pleasure. So diving straight into this podcast now, what would you say made you want to become a plumber?
So, hi Mick. Yeah, thanks for travelling all the way down to sunny Rugby from Bolton, and thank you for having me on your podcast. So, what got me involved in the industry? So, we're a family business. So, my granddad's a plumber, my uncle's a plumber, my dad was a plumber. So, it kind of ran in the family a little bit, although I did want to be an electrician. So I enrolled at the local college as an electrician from school, and it just so happens my Custom Heat at the time, so when I left school sort of 2000, they were on a job and it was sort of a bit two-handed with some ladder work, and my dad said to me, "Oh, would you go and help Darren?" So Darren is like a long time ago now, 20 odd years ago. "Would you go and help Darren with some ladder work?" I was like, yeah, no, sure, no problem. So I thought it was just one day. So I went and helped Darren, who's still with the company right to this day. So,
really?
Yeah, he's been with us for an extremely long period of time.
Well-timed serve then?
Yeah, massively. He's a great guy. So, yeah, he said, "Oh, would you go and help Darren on this job? It's ladder work. You foot the ladders and bits and pieces." Anyway, the second day, end of that day, Darren said, "You did really well. Do you want to go back tomorrow?" I was a bit hesitant about getting involved in the family business because of the whole stereotypes of you're not standing on your own 2 feet and you're being gifted things. I'm quite...
I'll touch on that because I've got a point on that, what you've mentioned, and I'll pull you on that shortly because there is a really poignant thing about what you've just said there. So just remind me about that when you finish, because it is important that we get that out and clear to people, because it really does actually annoy me, because I think sometimes if you've been gifted something, it's not the correct terminology. So what we'll do is we'll cut into the facts of the fact where you started, where you was and where you are now, because yes, you did have a start, but I think sometimes you're gifted, then that's harder than it is if you've not. Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my goal as a youngster out of school was to become an electrician. So I still trade, but I didn't do well in school. I didn't get many good GCSEs. So really going down a trade route was one of a few options. I wasn't smart enough to go to university. I would never have got in. I did apply. I was in several bands. I was drumming a lot as a youngster, and I did apply to go to the music, and they said you haven't got the right GCSEs. So I had to do this like portfolio and try and weed my way in that way.
Was it MVQs when you did it? Was it an MVQ where you had to take pictures and do a portfolio? Ended up getting onto an electrician's course without GCSEs and going to see the local chap that was running the courses at the college, and they said, "Yeah, we can enrol in September." But between that point and when September started, my dad had offered me to go and do a couple of days with Darren, helping on a farm where he needed somebody to foot a ladder and a bit of fetching and carrying, putting a big flue through several floors of a building. And it got to the end of that week, and my dad said, "Well, how about you carry on?" So bet you're glad you did that now.
Well, yeah, in some respects, yes. I was a very passionate drummer, so I loved drumming. I played in bands. I
did notice that when you first came in and you did it on the table.
I drum in my head almost every other hour, and so I've always had a passion for music. But I ended up becoming starting the first year without going to college. So I had a year of learning how to bend pipes and what the names of fittings were and all the basic stuff. So when I went to college, I kind of had a bit of a head start with that because I couldn't get on that first year's college course. And then, my dad offered me a job. I think it was around £80 a week as an apprentice. It was tough because I've got an older brother at home, I've got an older half brother, and I've got a younger sister. And I lived with my brother and my sister, and my brother would like to go out and sort of chill with friends and bits and pieces, and you're an apprentice and you're sweeping vans out and you're not on good money. And it was actually, I found that was probably the hardest part of my career, just to stick with those.
That's character building, that though. That really is, isn't it? I think that's the apprentices these days, and don't take anybody that's listening that's younger. I wish that we could take them back to how we was apprentices, because you didn't have, there was nothing really. You literally, you told what you did what you did, and if you didn't do, I'm a bit older than you, by the way, 10 years roughly. If you didn't do what you were doing, my boss, they couldn't do what they can do these days. You literally had to do what you did. But for me, I found that really useful because it kept me focused, and there was structure, there was rules, and I kept to those rules. Whereas now, I mean, a lot of the apprentices that we've had, I don't know if you've had, that you've taken on, that are basically very hard to get engaged into work. Some of the apprentices I've had that have came and just showed up to work. So your apprenticeship, that was their idea of it, but your apprenticeship, when you were doing it, you had to work, didn't you? There was no complaining your fault. I mean, they didn't existed, or did they? They may have existed when you
Well, I think in my early days, I wasn't very engaged at school, and coming early into custom heat, I wasn't very engaged with it. I was still in that school mindset. So I had a bit forgiving. My dad was very too generous to me, because if we had an apprentice the way that I behaved, they wouldn't be here. And you know, my dad forgave a lot of the things that I did, and it helped me, because you reflect back on when you're there. Now, it's like our apprentices now, we've got say over 10, say 15 apprentices at the minute, and sometimes you'll hear stories of this has happened or that's happened. You know, we flooded a school. Things have happened, and
it's going to do, isn't it? You
makes you quite forgiving.
And as well, you can't stop, I suppose, with apprentices, because we're in that fight at the minute in our company, certainly, where we've had apprentices that have qualified, but they still can't do the job, and then they want more money, and we can't afford that. And unfortunately, we have to let go of them, because if you can't do the job, as you well know, you can't productively, because now an apprentice that's just qualified, and even if he's just on a minimum wage, it's going to cost you £450 a week. So if they're not performing at that level at 23 grand, and it might cost you, say, 45, it costs to employ you 50, you get to the point where you can't do that, where you could literally pay someone 40 grand a year, get a new apprentice with them. And because I think a lot of, how can I put it, I think there was a lot more forgiving in our day, because the money wasn't as important, and I don't think now a lot of the youngsters want it instant. And I think that's the instant change, where with apprentices we think, do we go down the lines of, and you could give me some advice here, because this is a really interesting conversation, that if you've taken an apprentice on and you've got 15 of them and you train them all up, and you want to retain those apprentices. So I'm an apprentice, I'm looking for you. Now, if I worked for you and I had the opportunities to work here, I know that I probably would have stayed here, and I probably would have been one of your top boys, because I know where my mindset is, because ultimately I would think like, right, this guy's got vision. I can either go on my own, or I can work with him, and I'm going to have a fantastic life, and he's going to be taking all the stress. But I will take the stress. Financial stress is different than working stress, and you totally know what I mean. But if you've got 15 apprentices, if you had to say you'd like to retain them all, wouldn't you? Of course you would, because the vision is you take them on, they come with working through, they do their apprenticeship, and vice versa. But it doesn't always work out that way. And that, to me, sometimes can be quite heartbreaking. I've lost apprentices, especially one particular. I was so attached to him. And when he left, I couldn't afford him, because he got that good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's the risk that any construction-based company take when they take apprentices on. Essentially, taking somebody and trying to instill all that knowledge and skill into a person, and the better you make them and the more qualified you make them, the more appealing they are to either other employers or to go it alone. Like if you make somebody quite an independent, proactive thinking, problem-solving kind of individual, they're quite easy for them kind of people just to go and say, actually, I'll work for you, you and you, and do a bit of subbing and find their own work. So it is a risk, and we know that out of all the apprentices that we've got, we won't end up retaining all of them. We had an apprentice not too long ago, within the last 12 months, that qualified with their gas, and that is the most volatile point.
Absolutely,
because you're just waiting for that notice to come in, and came in and asked for money that you would expect quite a seasoned, experienced engineer to be asking for.
Can I just touch on that? I'm really sorry to interrupt. I think a seasoned engineer needs 10 years in. I don't know what your opinion's on that. I think once you've got an engineer that's done 10 years of doing this industry, they don't just know about the actual job itself, they also know about the problems, the processes, how to deal with customers, how to deal with situations, because there's lots of skills being an engineer which people are not aware of. So the apprentices you're talking about that has left, etc., They do go, but I do believe that when they go into the local pub or something, they say they're earning this, that, and the other. I do think they dramatise it a little bit, because you can look at my business and you know every figure I'm making. You can look at any business because of your experience and know what they're making. And some of the apprentices that have gone on their own, and I've certainly spoken to them, some of the figures that they're coming out with don't stack up. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen that. So some of the friends and family say you can earn this money, go on your own. And I found that that's cool. But actually, if you're earning £1,000 a week, and you think that, you know, that's a lot of money, when you take all your exes out of it, you're paying your engineers. Yeah. So there's no point technically going on your own.
There are a lot of misconceptions around it, and the assumption of people looking out into a business will assume that you sit in an office drinking coffee, driving fancy cars, and doing other things that are nice holiday. But in reality of a plumbing business, I've often said that brain surgeons will earn £1,000 an hour, plumbers will earn maximum £100 an hour or less, depending on area and other factors that go in. So we have to do a lot of work to earn the same money. People that, you know, are quite smart have to do a short amount of work for. So it is a graft, like you are. It's a job.
It's not for the faint-hearted.
No, and it's not one of the kind of jobs you can just go out and earn a lot of money for doing very little. It really isn't. You have to either be very smart, where you're good at selling and you can sell high margin and you can do that work in a small time frame to earn good money, and you don't get recalls, and you don't get problems, you don't get upset customers, and the customer pays the bill. Or you're working incredibly long hours, 7 days a week, and that's no life for anybody. And even off the back of that, where's your enjoyment factor? Where's your family time? Where's your holiday time? So there is really only specific ways businesses will run, in my opinion, that will make optimum amounts of money. You know, I don't want to, you know, we're asking about apprenticeships and things now, but going into salespeople and how they sell and their perception of a sale and how customers convert and what turns them into into an invoice, essentially, you know, a customer's interest into through the whole process into an invoice being paid. But I mean, apprenticeships, I don't want to pull back on apprenticeships, because
I agree.
I think every tradesperson in a position that can do something should do something.
Putting something back at you, exactly.
Yeah, and if some do leave, we just need to take that on the chin. I mean, it is an investment. An apprentice.
Did you ever find, you must have had him, I was thinking on in particular, I won't name him, and when he left and he went to one of the other managers that worked for us, and now I have just named him, but basically I was devastated. It was like, oh my God, and it was like, I just kind of lost my little buddy, a little. It's the attachment that you can have with these people. It's quite strong, and they feel the same. You know, when he handed his notice, and I could see it. I'm like, this is, and you know, obviously you get on with it, but you always think, if you just, you know, is there anybody in your company, you don't need to name them, that you think, I wish we'd have retained him?
There are people, yeah. I mean, some people hand the notice in, and I'll do everything I can do to retain them. They're good people, they're honest people, you trust them, they turn up on time, they do a good job, the customers are happy, they pay the bills, everybody's happy. And equally, there are people that have left that we've negotiated them coming out of the business as soon as possible. I found when people leave, which really frustrates me, like beyond frustration, and it almost happens all the time. So when somebody leaves in an install van or a service van, mainly installers, you'll go outside, you say, right, let's take the kit off the van and we'll get the fleet guy, you know, we'll drop you home, Paul will drop you home. And they start taking kit off the van. And it's not just a one-off. And so you've got these fittings trays full of shiny copper fittings, right? And they're hoisting them off the van. And this lad I said not too long ago, well, there are fittings. And he said, no, they're not. When I started with you, I brought some fittings in. And I said, you think I'm stupid? You brought a load of fittings in from your house and fitted them on our jobs when all you needed to do was ask for them and we'd drop them out to you. And now you want to take them off?
Tools, I could really, I'm relating to you, I'm smiling, I don't know if the camera can see this, because I had the exact same thing with tools. So I had that exact same thing. The tools come, they didn't bloody work. And then when he left, he took mine and said, well, I brought mine. So he brought a load of crap, in a sense, to the company. And when he left, he took a load of good, and there's nothing I could do about it because he took them. And I was like, well, I'm not fighting that, but I totally get that. There's no way that this guy has used his own fittings in your company. I don't believe that. I don't. And if he did do, he'd want them back, but not trays of them.
There's no way you're going to hoist hundreds of pounds worth of kit in and go, oh, well, let me start fitting that, and not even mention anything to it. But the downside to those kind of scenarios is that then a business like ours and others will try to protect themselves. So they put all these processes in place. Like, oh, you now have to have van audits. You now have to have van checks. You now have to have scrutinised.
It's a shame, innit, because you're scrutinising the people that don't need scrutinising. You're having to do it to everyone for a minority.
Yeah. And we've now got processes that make sure that the kit on the van is ours and that it's photographed and it's evidence, and all these things exist because people try to steal off you. You think, oh, the company's covered in red tape. It's actually to protect itself from people that come along and take advantage of situations. It's like it really just put businesses in a vulnerable position.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And if you're working on the margins that I kind of think you're working on, it only takes a couple of that to happen, and that van's not profitable. It's people think that, you know, the thing is with this industry, there's a fine line. If you're a really good engineer and you want to make a decent wage, a decent living, and there's a great example of that. And I'm going to try to get him on a podcast. You know Paul, don't you? He's got a seriously well-oiled business, and there's not many of them, and he's fitting 350 boilers, and he's absolutely killing it. And the thing is, how can I put it? When you get to your level, if everybody stole £1 a day, that'd be £70, just £1 off each van. Have you got about 70 vans?
Yeah.
Yeah. Roughly. So let's say with that £1 to £2 a day, £3 a day, 1 hour here, 1 hour there, you could potentially be into £3,000 a week, because the people don't really see it as stealing, because there is. I suppose you don't mind the odd fitting, and I don't know if I should say that I don't mind the odd fitting, but ultimately, if you look at how many members you've got, and you've got lots of lads that are putting lots of effort in, and then you're having to police everybody the same for the minority, and that's the same in every business, I suppose, in NHS, in police, in fire, whatever. We're all doing that to protect the business, because unfortunately, it's only a minority, but we have to do it to everybody. And how much money do you think you want to do that? Do you hell? Because you've got to put more systems, operations, and processes in. Yeah. So I think people need to be mindful, especially people who are working in your team, that you're not doing it for that. Because ultimately, if people continue to do that, there won't be a custom heat, because ultimately it'll dissolve from the inside. Because you've got a really good point there, and I've probably took over a little bit here because it's made me passionate to the point. I've experienced that, and I'm nowhere near the size of you, and it's affected me at a lot smaller level. So God just knows how you've coped with it and what you've had to put in to sort that. So the red tape that you've put in about photographing the vans and doing that. So if I come working for you, tell me the process of when I take a van off you.
So we have Paul, great chap. He looks after all of our vehicles. So anything goes wrong fleet-wise, Paul's in charge. New engineer starts. So we have a handover sheet which if a van's not brand new, it'll mark any marks on there. And on top of that, there's photos. And on top of that, there's a walk-around video in the presence of the new engineer. Ridiculous, I know. But we've had vans come back in where somebody wants to leave with a door mirror hanging off. And guess what? Oh, I didn't do that. I got it like that. So we've had to put that process in place. So people turn up going, oh, this is a bit much. This is a small family business. But you've got this ridiculous process off the back of having so many damaged vehicles that we now need to control that element of the business.
It's very costly, isn't it? That very costly, especially now. Price of you've got wrap vans. Yeah. I bang your van. You've got to then get it fixed. It's off the road, wrap it, and an average repair, even on a small thing, it's probably about £1,000.
Well, we had a van come in the last Monday this week, and that van has got 1,100 quid's worth of work it needs doing to it. There's dinks and dents in it. So we've got a handover sheet, photos and a video. This is how it looked when we gave it you. This is how it looked now. It's £1,100. But do you think anybody wants to pay that? Even though they've signed a vehicle agreement, they've acknowledged that they've dealt with the... They just say, well, you're a business, you can afford it.
That's the point, isn't it? If I was to, say, borrow your car today, and you was my best mate, and I banged it, and I said... Really sorry about that. Like, you're insured, it's fine. There's no way that would happen. If that was that person and I borrowed my team member's car, I would fix that instantly. But if I said, oh, I don't know how that's happened, but mate, you've had hold of it, you were responsible for it. Well, I didn't do it. Because the problem is in the mindsets of the people, and not everybody is, because I've got to be honest with you, our lads are very, very honest, and we're a lot smaller team than you, very honest. They'll tell us they hate it. I've just had one with one of our engineers, and he was like really worried. It weren't nice, but he's sorted it. But ultimately, I think the mindset of it's just a works van and it's going to get banged and throughout the day, that needs to change, because it's that. For instance, if you're making £2,000 out of a van a month. I don't know. Let's just say it's that. And that van's banged twice a year. That's 2 months of work that you've been running your business to cover the cost of that van. Now, if you said to the person, well, you owe that now, and I know you can't charge them the full amount, there's various things you can do, but it's challenging, isn't it? I mean, you must have, there must be a van damaged every single day here that's going into a garage or something on the size of your fleet. It has to be.
You see the vans outside.
I did see.
The high proportion of them are off the road. One's got a wrap missing at the back where it's been had body work. Yeah, it's quite common that there's the more vans you've got, the more problems you have. It's why we took on Paul and took the fleet element away, because it was such a busy area. People ringing up with vans broken down or things not working.
You need spare vans, don't you, for vans breaking down? You need spare vans. I mean, do you run that?
So our intention was through COVID to have spare vans, but we couldn't get hold of them. So we were buying vans just to put engineers in. But more recently, it's gone a bit quieter. And there's a couple of spare vans about. We'll probably keep a couple of spare vans purely because one goes in, you need something to go out. I mean, the local places will give you a van, but they're not signed.
We'll just know that, actually. When we need a van, we'll ring you for that. Now I know
that. Well, it's a bit of a drive down to come and borrow it. But
we could go out, we could have some food, make a day of it.
Nice.
That'd be good. But ultimately, I think one of the reasons I've been searching companies like yourself, because you know when you mentioned about your granddad, you left it, and I said, we're going to come back to it. So we've kind of covered a lot of this stuff, and I don't know how long this is going to go on to, because I could probably keep you here all day, to be quite honest with you. So we'll go back to your dad when he exited the business and then you took over, because I don't think people realise, and I'm going to just say where I see it, I might be wrong, you might want to edit it, I don't know, but I see it that you come working for your dad, and you took the business when something happened with your dad, and you can explain that. And he stopped working and you took it over in 2009. So that gives you 15 years roughly, doesn't it? And you've gone from 7 employees to how many today?
So how many today? So at peak, say a year ago, we were probably floating around 150 employees.
So you did say you was a small business. Now, I don't know the statistics on that, but there's not many people with over 100 staff. There's not many of them out there. I think there's something that I can't be exact on this. There's something like 5 million businesses, whatever it is. My mentors spout this off all the time. Not many people even get over £1 million. Never mind employing what you're doing. So could you just tell me a little bit how you did that? I know you've told me a little bit, but I'd like you to tell our audience not how you did it, but what you experienced from I've took over my vision and the mistakes you made and what you did.
So I took over running Custom Meet when I was 24. So I went through college. I did 3 years in MBQ.
You've not aged, have you, really?
I did level 1, 2 and 3, and then I did my gas, oil, LPG, Part B. My dad kind of put me through a lot of courses, try and pump that knowledge in, product courses, qualification-based things. I then went on and did some mainly install. My background's install predominantly. I then did a little bit of service work before. My dad wasn't very well. Around 2008, 2009, the recession was sort of kicking in. It was a pressurised time. I think there was a team of sort of 5 to 7 people in total, including Office himself.
I forgot that you actually built this in a recession technically.
Yeah, it was really, really tricky. So my dad wasn't very well. Maybe not say why, but he said to me, the doctors have said you need to go and have a break. So I'm gonna have a break for 2 weeks and I'll come back. And he never came back. So over there from sort of 2009 up to the present day, sadly my dad died last year from an accident at home. So that was out the blue. But
I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't actually know that, to be fair. Yeah. So that was one of my next questions, but you've answered that. Yeah,
so, I mean, his involvement in the business, he used to say he didn't like walking down paths and talking to customers. He was at a point where he just, if we needed new vans, I'd ring him up and say, hey, Dad, we could do with another 4 Berlingos. We've got service engineers starting. And he would go off to the dealerships and he loved it and he'd get them wrapped and he'd bring them back. And he always did such an amazing job, whatever he did. He was a very particular guy. He taught me most of what I know.
He's your mentor, really, as well as your dad.
He was in many respects. He got to a point where he said, I can't help you anymore. When the business started to scale a bit, he just said, it's like, you'll know better than me, is what he would openly say. But in the early days of me being a fitter, the way that he conducted himself with me, it really trained me and molded me into this person that almost looked for perfection in every element of what we did. And a quick story is he would be very critical of everything, and he would open his mouth in front of the customer. If he wasn't happy, it was coming out of his mouth, and he would do it. He had no filter, and I mean no filter. He wasn't rude, he wasn't aggressive, but you kind of like you stood by your bedstool and you just didn't move an inch until he was very, very like that. And I remember being on an installation in the town here, and I'd had a few, and he'd come out and he'd criticise this. And I thought on this job, right, I've even turned my fitting skips upside down, I banged them out, cleaned them out, put my skips in. All the dust seats are nice and square and laid out. Everything is perfect. This job is perfect. When he turns up, because he was dropping some bits off to me, he's not going to find a single issue.
And he did.
Right, he walks in the door. When you park your van, make sure you park your wheel straight. Otherwise, a dust lorry will come past and take your wheel off. Right, he was that level. So I've had that like drilled into me as a youngster, and I think that's the best training I could have ever wished for, because later in life, like now, you still look for them real imperfection things, of whether your vans are displayed, the way your vans.
Do you think that's helped you grow? I know that's helped you grow, by the way, but do you think that's helped you grow?
It has, because I feel that my dad was one of a kind, genuinely, and I think I understand him and what he would look for when it came to real detailed things. Like, he would do few things, but he would do them to perfect. You know he'd done them because the way it'd been done. And we're not criticising people now. We've had a lot of installers that are here. We have a lot of stores that have come and gone and stuff like that. But I don't really see an install the way that we used to do it back in the day when my dad was about, because he would pick fault at things that, in my opinion, you probably didn't need to go that far with. But it meant that the business ran at this like hyper level. Like, customers would often say, "Oh, I'm not even going to box them pipes in. I'm just going to polish them," because our engineers, things would just get ripped out.
What do you think changed that? I mean, my personal opinion on that is cost and pace of life. I think that has had a massive impact on, because I'm 47, and I hate saying that, guys, but I am, and I always lie about my age. But ultimately, and all for younger, I'll get that in quick. But ultimately, you'd do a combi swap, and you might relate to this. So now our lads go in and we marry up. We use the term marry up, and the reason why we have to marry up is because we can't repipe and make everything look perfect, because that then takes the time boarding out the wall, marrying up, doing that. That could actually be potentially, as you know, if you have to board out the wall, you have to redo it, you polish your pipes, you put like £700 on the job. Yeah. The problem is the customer isn't kind of bothered about that anymore. They just want something that does the job, that's safe and reliable. So ultimately, I think companies like ours and yours and the one-man bands out there, so people will say, you know, the work, you should do a day's work and put your whole into it. But the market has changed. I mean, Worcester Bosch a boiler, it's a budget boiler. They call it our budget boiler. It's never been heard of in Bosch, as you know. But ultimately, the market's changed because customers just basically have become where they just want the specifics. So the model that used to work back in the day, I don't think would work now, because if you hit the nail on the head, it would be too paced and not. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I think there's still an element of customers out there that do want that level of
yes,
finish.
That's correct. Yeah.
And I don't think that you have to. I mean, the level of finish I'm talking about, my dad, was extreme. It was like, it was utter perfection, even to the way the van sat outside the house. He just made sure everything was done. Like, he'd say, don't park your van on a drive when you do a quote, because you don't want to block their drive. Everything was minusculely micromanaged to within an inch of its life. And now with installs, customers' perceptions have changed. They want speed, they want convenience, they want you in and out, they want easy ways to pay, book, all these other things that go on. But there is still an element of customers that will pay a bit more, and they want a bit more, and they want a good finished job. And, you know, we just handle that here with pairing the right engineer with the right skill set with the right, you know, job type. So, you know, we have engineers that are very delicate. They're not the quickest. Their finish is incredible, and we have engineers that are good at putting
combi. So you position those engineers in the roles where they need to be.
Yeah, well, you think people have all got different.
My brother's like that with pipe work. He's, you know, my brother's not particularly technical. He's not gas safe. He's none of the above. He can do the job, but you chuck him in a plant room or anything to do that, he'll get it bang on. Yeah. He will take probably twice as long as some of the engineers, but the work is exactly that. And we use him on specific jobs. He works for us for 20 years now, but he will never do his gas, because he just says to me, like, I'm just not interested. So I've kind of realised that you've got to embrace on the skills of that. You've already said that, on the person, because you've got some people, didn't you say when I first was talking to you earlier on about engineers don't make great managers, because the assumption is that you might have a cracking engineer that's they want to go from A to the top. Sorry, A to B, whatever you want to call it. So they start off as an engineer, they're a very good engineer, and say for instance you hire somebody, so this is a really loyal, very good engineer, and you hire somebody, say you've got 15 staff, and you bring someone in who's a manager, and he believes that he should have got that position. That's very difficult because, as you rightly said, some engineers are fantastic at that, and when you put in management, they hate it. So
yeah. Well, if we had that exact scenario play out, and I probably, if the person listening to this, they're going to know who I'm talking about, but I won't say who it is. But essentially, we've had somebody here that worked for a very long time, and when we grew, we thought, well, let's start to put a management structure in place. Let's start to tweak how we're operating day to day. And my mum said, actually, she was like, oh, you should offer so-and-so the job. They've been here the longest. I was like, yeah, but, if you're a cleaner on a plane for 20 years, don't make you a pilot. Do you know what I mean? You've got to have the skill, fundamentally, to do the job. It's not the fact time means nothing. You'd be here for 3 seconds, but if you're better skilled at doing that particular job, then you should be doing it. I've never considered time plays a part in any part of what somebody does. It's how good they are at doing what it is you need doing.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. I mean, I've tried that, but sometimes you're like scared that you're going to offend. I think it's just basically explains to people. I've got an engineer at the minute that's crossing over to be a quoting engineer. So he's done what we was talking about, the 50-50 split, and he's going to go quoting. But I basically want to pull him off completely and have him quoting. Yeah. He's not comfortable with that yet because he's still a little bit engineer mindset. And also, when we pull him off, at the time he'll be right, and we'll have someone that can do his job because he's multi-skilled. He's been here, he gets a lot of very good reviews, and he's just really good with customers. And to the point when he's doing the jobs, the customers always say how good he is with them. And I have a specific way of sales and selling. I can sell to people I've not met, so I've been teaching him how to teach. Because if you're selling to a customer, as we're talking sales and you're an engineer, if you're in someone's house and you're doing it's relatively easy to sell that boiler because you got the trust, you give them a good price, you've already given them a good job, you already got the job. It's a lot more difficult to be a salesman walking in to somebody you don't know anything about you. That is a skill within itself, and I've had to learn that skill over the years, and I'm sure you have, and I'm sure you as a really good salesman, else you wouldn't be where you're here. So again, some of the salesmen that are out there that are listening to this, they are not technical, but they're very good at selling the actual product. They listen to the customer.
Actually, that plays a bigger part because a lot of our installers will say, so-and-so strikes again, it's problem. That always happened with my dad, it happened with me, and he was a detailed guy. I'm a detailed guy, and, methodically thinking jobs through and quoting them and making sure we got bits there before engineers turn up and all these other bits. And still, you'd miss some. You're only human. You'd miss a gas reel. You think that's the pipe runs that way. It doesn't. They took the floor up. It goes that way. Or there's concrete here or steel beams there. It's kind of, one of them things with quoting that you're inevitably going to end up.
It's funny you should say that, actually, when they say so-and-so strikes again, when I'll get a call and I've sent them out quoting and they've missed something. I never bring it up. I never bring anything negative. No. I'll try not to. I do moan. I do definitely moan. I think every business owner does that. I think we've discussed that, haven't we? But ultimately, like with especially the engineer that I have faith in and I think is going to do it, we've got one now, a really good prospect that's helped me so much in the business, and he's helped me. I became poorly, as I explained to you, a few years ago, and it got worse. And then I've come and I've asked a lot of your advice before we got on this podcast, what you think I should do, how we should do it. But ultimately, I think one of the biggest things is you hit the nail on the head. You mentioned trust. The trust has got to be 100% both ways, flowing and communication. Yeah. So with this particular lad, he's told me what he wants, what he expects. He give a goal. He's hit that goal pretty much. We're a bit shy on his goal, but he's hit it. But he again, he's still on the tools. He's still doing the job. Eventually, I see him within the next 12, 18 months coming off that role, replicating himself to do the job. And his job will be running the engineers, very similar to the guy that you've got. I'll probably do, introduce it like you possibly, did what we've discussed. It might work, it might not, but I can see the potential. He comes in, I'm literally, and I'm not joking, it'll be Monday morning, he'll ring me up at 7:15, where are you? I'll be like, all right, okay, I'm just at my girlfriend's or whatever I'm doing. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, yeah, I'm coming in. Are you coming in this morning? And it's what I'm saying is he doesn't realise what he's doing there, because sometimes it's lonely being a business owner because you're the one who's driving and pushing, and then weekend comes and everyone goes, and then you're trying to do that and you're coming on the money. He's basically saying to me, get your ass in work, we've got things to do. So this young lad who I've kind of seen, and he's about 27-ish, he's seen the opportunity, what he can have with us, but I've got to show him that vision, and that's where we're going with it now. I want M&R to be like custom, where it's excitable. I've walked into your office today and I've come past all your products you've shown me. It's absolutely gobsmacked me how well it's run, and you've explained about the automation, how people book on site. It's really helped. How you was up at 11 o'clock thinking about how customer thought. I've listened to everything you've said in detail, but to actually do your thoughts and put them into action, that's the magic that you've got. Because I have these thoughts but I struggle to put them in action, but you seem to have had these thoughts. Maybe you've methodically done it, so you've said, right, advertising's got to be this, I've conquered that, this has got to be that, I've conquered that. Maybe you, I don't know, you give some of our listeners a bit of advice here. So a lot of business owners are looking at that, and their mind's everywhere. So do you think you focus on a problem, fix that problem, move on, or do you still think you're
So no, I mean, early days, I never had a single focus. Like, my mind was all over the place. I was looking at marketing systems, processes, computers, engineers, how we communicating with customers. I'd sometimes sit on our website and go, right, I'm a customer, I want to book a service. How am I doing it? How can I minimise the amount of hassle it is for a customer, for an engineer to turn up? Right, I want 6 steps on the website. Customer engineer turns up, customer knows the price. They can't question anything. They get a text message, email. That whole process is automated and streamlined.
So basically, I'm going to just chuck an example out so people, I know your process because I've seen it, and I was tempted to fill it out when I was looking at your website and I was researching you, and I will do now. You give permission that, but ultimately, we both use the same package. Can I mention it? Commusoft, we both use Commusoft. A lot of the companies do. I think it's great, Commusoft. I don't know if you've noticed how much they're evolving recently, because they blooming are. They need to put the prices down a little bit and look after us. I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, I run the user group, so so I'm not a good person to ask an opinion on Commusoft. I'm biased.
I've been with them for years and years. I used to be Surefire originally. But Surefire, there was a great system and operation and process what I was using at the time. And then I started to look at companies and ask about, and we made the move to them. And I've seen probably in the last 18 months big changes, big changes, and I really love what they're doing. It's getting, there's a few tweaks, and I think they're listening a lot more to what the installers want now, and you probably say that. But the process we're talking about here, so I come on to this is what I think happens. I'm an existing customer. I've got my reminder that's automated. I don't know if SMS, do you send letters?
No.
We send letters.
If the first 2 hurdles fail, then potentially sometimes we jump on the phone.
We need to look at that, to be fair, because the costage of postage is shocking. We're scared to go away from that, so you've just answered another question that I had. So ultimately, the process I go on, I'm an existing, I go into Custom Heat, I look right, I pick my service, what I want, so it's a boiler service. You automatically know what boiler that is because you've got that on record. My next step is I maybe give you a postcode to find out who I am. Is that correct? Can you talk me through the process of how it works?
How customers book online. So essentially, the idea was to make it the simplest, shortest process from going click, engineer turns up. So the issue we have with integrating with existing systems, so like Commusoft or others, they go, plug in and you can book through our system, right? I don't like any of them for the simple reason our industry is primarily reactive. So on a Sunday night, you've got a water leak, or you've got no heat, hot water, and you want an engineer. You don't want to wait till they open. You've got an engineer. You want an engineer there tomorrow morning, right? So you go onto a website, and if you use one of these plug-in ones off the shelf, it'll tell you somebody can come on Thursday. I hate it. They're not built with reaction in mind. They're built with, let's see if we can get an engineer. Can he have his lunch break? And is he going to be okay? And pandering to all this like nonsense that goes on. So we built our own one, which basically says, when do you want us to come? See you then. It's basically what it does. And yes, it challenges, but that doesn't matter. Like,
so do you have... I can't imagine how that works. So do you have, that's probably why you're offering something that's really unique selling point, that, to be honest with you.
So if you read our Trustpilot reviews, every third one will say booking was easy. And I've always had a focus.
Is that why your phones are not as busy as possibly some of the businesses I've been in, for instance, there's a lot of it done through that. So that also cuts down on the stress in the office.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't have ringing phones on the desk. I don't know if you noticed. There's no phones
I
on
did,
there.
yes. So that is really. I didn't know if I should have brought that up, but that
You
confuses
won't-
both, didn't it? This is Izzy, by the way. I know you can't see him, but he's the guy that makes all this magic work, and he's from the TM I work with. But ultimately, I walked in and we went in there. And I think we went to the coffee room or the toilet, whatever. And we saw this room, and then we moved all the stuff into it because we'd already. By the way, guys, what we'd done is we'd gone and set up in his office, and we were trying to get the mics to work. And me and you've gone in here. It was beautiful. I didn't even see that. We walked past. He's gone. We're moving, so we moved over to here. But ultimately, I have never seen an office like that. And you said to me, "Oh, wait till whatever." I'm still waiting. It seems.
Well, the phone, you don't hear a ring noise. There's no phones. The headset's through a soft phone, an app. Everybody's on MacBooks. So it's it's all through an app.
So when they get so basically you took away the ring because it's distracting. So what happens is that when I'm sat in front of your desk, it flashes up that someone's on the phone.
It pops up on the computer screen.
And they just click it.
It tells them where they're from, custom heat, custom electric, Cornwall, build.
You've shown me. I'd love when we go. If you don't mind, it's entirely up to you. I'd love to take a picture of that possibly. That is next level. I've seen that, and I'm watching it thinking. I won't swear, but I was like, this guy, and at Worcester, when I was trying to, I think I met you last year, I had too many drinks, probably approached at the wrong time, but ultimately, I really wanted to get you on because they recognise something that you're doing, and I don't think, anybody out there that thinks, oh, I'll do this, this and this, it takes a specific person. I would say, out of 100 companies, there's only going to be one company that, not even one, by the way, that can do what you've achieved, so... And I mentioned to you about competition, and I was asking you to look at competition and stuff like that. And one of the best advice you give me is no, I don't really, because competition. I just carry on and stay in my own lane. Is probably the best advice I've had all month.
I don't think I've ever looked at the competition. I don't care what they charge. I've been on quotes. I used to quote for the longest period. I've not quoted or been on a spanner for at least the last 5 years. Prior to that, I quoted for a long period of time, and I was an installer before. I was Corgi registered, then Gas Safe registered. But I've been on quotes where customers, I've got a quote from so-and-so. Honestly, I don't care. I never said that to a customer, but I don't care. They could be $3,000 cheaper than us. It's not going to affect my price. We have salespeople that come here and go, oh, so-and-so's charging this much for this. I don't give a shit. It has no bearing on it. Like what we offer at the level we offer it at, they're nobody's. That's my mindset.
You're right.
And I will not alter the price. We offer such a service with skilled people.
Can I just say something who you really remind me of? And it's a big compliment, this. I've met Charlie Mullins. Exactly what's just come out your mouth. He said that was never the problem. So you have got that same mindset. And to be fair, you've grown a company from 7 to over 150. I don't know what it is now, but in such a short period of time. And you've just said you might be possibly one of the dearest on the market. I don't know, but are you the dearest? Because what people don't realise, if you go into a restaurant and you ask for, if you give you a good example, you go to a local pub, that we all know the local pubs, that you go and get a steak, it's dead cheap, it's pretty crap, isn't it? Yeah. You go in and they don't ever say, well, that's not right, because they accept that level, and then they go and get the same steak, but a better quality steak in a restaurant and pay quadruple the amount of money, if not more, and don't moan. That's the same thing with you, because ultimately it's not just about doing the job. It's about if the job goes wrong, if you set fire to the house, if you go bankrupt. Have you got all these systems, operations and process to make sure that customer's safe? Have you CRB checked? It's not CRB announced, whatever it's called now. DBS, you lads, all this sort of stuff that you do to make sure that customer's safe. Yeah. If they're working on price, they don't realise that you're just going to get what you pay for. And the majority of customers that we've got, that we take on our service plans, I'm sure you do, I've had experience. I've had one actually the other day, which will interest you. He's asked us, he's rang us up, he said, you've not got the job. But I've got a real bad problem because the company's took the money off me and took the deposit, £1,000. Can you give us some advice? So I've rung him a couple of times, he's not rung back, but this company's not going fit in his boiler, and this company was cheaper than me, and he's saying, how do I cancel? I've made a mistake, and he used a specific term. He wished he'd have come with us. That's because we're honest, we're transparent, and people say we're expensive. We're definitely not expensive. We make less money on a job, and I'm sure you do, than somebody, say for instance, I'm 2,000 as a one-man band, you might be 3,000. That one-man band, half the time, they're not paying any VAT, they're not paying any tax. Even though they're putting it in the bank, the customers are saying, so ultimately, you have got a level of backup and customer duty, and you're going nowhere. And it's frustrating because you've just said it. Cost is very important, but if you stay in that hotel or you stay in that hotel, there's a difference
there's
in
a different experience.
Absolutely.
It's a completely different experience. It's why there's a menu in a restaurant, because there's always choice, and you can pay more and get more, you can pay less and you get a little salad, or you can get a massive steak. Like, there's always choice, and you'll get a different experience every single time. It's music to my ears when a customer says, "You're £800 more than the next cheapest quote." Good. I want to be £800 more than the next cheapest quote, and if we're good at what we're doing, we'll be in that house fitting that boiler for that £800 more. And it happens very often. Oh, but these online retailers, this much. I don't care about the online retailers. Like, our sales team are driven and focused on what we do. So we never go into a property.
How many do you have in your sales team?
6 in total.
Because I did pull you on that. I knew that actually answers that. I thought it was 5 when I counted the chairs.
1 in the southwest.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So basically, that shocked me, because I know companies that are doing, say, 1.8 million. Would you mind? I don't know if you would share that with us. What is the turnover of customer? I know
so it's grown and then it's tailed off a bit, but it'd be around the 10 million mark.
So 10. So bloody hell, that's 10 times bigger than us. But ultimately, what I'm saying is that they've got a sales team same size as yours. So what's springing into my mind there? The salesmen are very good, and not only that, it's your aftercare that's doing it, and the ease of service of use. That's what's promoting your business. I think the fact that you're trustworthy, your vans are everywhere, and also you've got a premises, gorgeous place that they can come and have a look at. You can see as well. I mean, it's probably, I've never been into anything like this really, unless it was corporate. In the corporate companies, you do look very corporate, but I can see that you're kind of not, because I've spoken to a couple of your members. I know that your mum works here. I know that your wife works here. I know that you're very, very family-oriented business, and I'm not so sure if your children are going to come into it, but you never know. Possibly not.
I don't know whether I'd want them to get into the grind. I don't know if I'd want this relentless mindset and this approach that you have to almost take every second of your breathing life just to keep up with that treadmill that just seems to fly round and round.
But do you not think that's just mine and your personality? It wouldn't change that. It's either in you or it's not. I do believe that.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
I think you can't change that, to be fair.
Going back, we were speaking a minute ago about growth and like our journey from growth, and myself taking over from my dad and then going to college and doing, getting the gas and doing all the qualifications and things. And I think if we spoke about growth and how as a company we went from, say, 7 to 100 odd and down a bit and up a bit and all the rest of it.
That's business, isn't it? It's the
curves. But how we did it specifically. So I say we because there's more than just me. I've always been one person to try and think outside the box, and I'll be there on a Saturday night, either working or thinking of new creative ways for things to happen. My wife's maybe watching Netflix. More recently, she's been getting involved too. But I have a love and a passion for work. I was 24 years old, took over from my dad, and my biggest fear, well, there was two. One was failure, because I worried really that I wouldn't be able to sell. I'd go out and quote, and nobody would buy into me. And bearing in mind, my dad wasn't the cheapest. We've never worked on price. Like, we've never been the cheapest people to have. My dad was more quality and a good job and a proper aftercare and that kind of stuff. So I would worry that I wouldn't be able to sell. I'd go and see somebody and then nobody would be going ahead with jobs. It was the other way, because I really loved quoting.
It's passion, it's definitely passion. You've got passion. I mean, when we talked about it, about passion, you're very, very passionate. And I asked you a question on growth, and I didn't really get an answer, or did I get an answer? So I'm going to put you on the spot on now when we're talking about that. I said to you, "Are you gas safe?" You said no. I said, "Have you got F-gas?" You said no. Then I said to you, "Do you think it's important I have it?" Then you asked me a series of questions. What would your opinion be to, like, for instance, I know I can come away from that, but I can't stop dipping myself back into the tools. Would you say possibly look at not becoming gas safe, as, for instance, Joe said? If you've not got it, then you can't do it.
I think it depends a lot on the structure of your business. So if you play a key part right now, so you've got engineers, they go out, they make a mistake, you're the fall guy that goes out and gets the customer back on side, you're giving that end result, you're trying to fix that problem, and you need your gas to do that, then circumstances dictate that you need to maybe continue with it. But I mean, our biggest gains have been through little risks similar to that. I never resat my gas. I took it twice. I had Corgi, then gas safe, and I never took it again. And part of me thought, oh God, I'm going to have a problem, because after a certain amount of time, you have to go back to the portfolio stage. But I never did.
You've changed that now, by the way. You can go back now and still do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
You just have got to do a little refresher.
Oh, really? Well, it's been a long time. I haven't been gas safe for like probably 10 years or so now, just over 12 years or so.
That's because you're not a heating engineer anymore, are you? You're actually a director, a visionary, a businessman, an entrepreneur, a husband, probably a loan shark, probably everything that the boss takes on, a psychiatrist. There's so many roles to a director's. But I said to you, said to me, what was the reason you wanted to double Mick and the growth? The reason I wanted to do is because I fell poorly, and I've explained that. I've not explained that actually to any of the viewers, and I don't think now's the right time, but I will tell you about that at some point when I'm on my own. But ultimately, it made me realise that the only way I can come away from it is by replacing me. And that's not replacing me because I want more money. That's replacing me because I want to be more visionary and more doing the stuff I enjoy, which is controlling the business, running the business, pushing it forward, getting involved in the van designs a lot more, getting involved in all the things that are more important. The sales are the most important thing, obviously, but getting involved in more and more of that, because I'm full on with sales, to be fair, and I have got help with the sales now, but it'd be nice to do what you've done where I could come away from the sales. Look, at the end of the day, if I wasn't busy and I had nothing to do, it'd be great to be able to say, right, well, I can now go on the brand design, and that's what you've just shown me a van outside and was discussing that, where you've gone from the flames and you've gone more basic now, and it's but this, I'm pretty certain you'll see it go back to flames, because it's constant up and down. And you know what happens is, I go to a designer and I say, I want a van. The first thing they do is they go, right, who's busiest near? Oh, Customs Heat looks great. Hey, Mick, have you seen this? This is my design. No, they've looked at yours, pulled it a little bit, put their own tweak on it, because the wheels never been reinvented. It's just been tweaked and made quicker and slicker, and it's backwards and forwards. And Pepsi have just done it, haven't they? They've gone back to their old logo. I don't know if you know that. Nice. So ultimately, I think the point I'm trying to make is that, you know, what you're doing is you're now the visionary. You can now work on the business. That's what I want to do. I mean, if I could get to your 11, that'd be a dream. That would be a dream.
But I wasn't at the start. See, at the start, I was 24, very inexperienced. And there was changes.
How old are you now? Sorry, 39?
39.
9. 40, when is that?
Later this year.
Oh, brilliant. I'll come to that if I'm invited. I'll come.
I didn't want to do anything. I haven't celebrated anything. I didn't want to do anything for 40th, but
you should do. You should.
My wife's pushing me a lot. She's
right.
Yeah, you got to do it. You got to. It's like,
you have to do it. It's not all about you.
Yeah, but yeah, there's been tweaks over from being very inexperienced stage. Took Custom Heat on, ran insolvent. I wrongly thought as a 24-year-old that the people that work here and the processes would just carry on, and I'd go out and do my little bit quoting, and they'd all do their bit, and it would all work. No, wrong.
Totally
Did
wrong.
Not work. So I learnt a lot in them early days. We ran insolvent. I remember sitting down with the accountants. He was like an old schoolmaster in an old building, and he sat and he said, well, if you run any longer as insolvent, you're going to have to declare yourself bankrupt. It was a moment where we were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And it's almost like they took pleasure out of it, because I was the son, and it's like, you don't know what you're doing, you're young and stupid, not really realising it's actually my dad was quite well, and I was just trying to do my best. And I actually ended up home some days in tears. The pressure was that much as a young lad. And
no one should have to go through that, by the way, because I've been through that. You shouldn't have to go through that.
Yeah, it was definitely a learning experience. I actually found them days harder then.
You tell me one company that's successful that's not done that, what you're saying. Every single one have gone through it. And running insolvent isn't down to that. It's because you're trying to grow, you're trying to do it, and it's hard because people don't realise.
I was quoting things 2 or 3 days. They were taking 3 or 4 days. It was consistent. I just wrongly assumed naively that they do their bit, I do my bit, and I'll go out and quote, and they'll carry on working like they did when my dad was about. It did not happen. And the fact that businesses
won't... I think age came into that bit of ageism.
Oh yeah, they did. And I was the apprentice for most of the people that were there, so the respect wasn't there. It's why I think if you're a son, or you're looking to get your son into the business, I think it's significantly more difficult, because I think you have to do double the amount of hard work, and be double the level of professionalism, and double the amount of what's seen and felt by people who work there, to actually for them to buy into that respect, because they just see how you're a family member. You've been gifted.
I get it. We've touched on the gifted bit. Did I mention I wanted to go back to that, because I've got friends who have been gifted businesses, and it's really, really unfair. Now, if I'd have been gifted my business, I don't think I'd have done any better than I have now. It's only in the last 2018 I woke up, and then obviously we had COVID, which was difficult for us. I don't know if it was for you, but we had a bit of a problem in COVID, and then after that I became poorly. But it's only now that I've woke up, because if I'd have known what I know now, the last 15, 20 years that I've done it has been really hard work. I didn't understand systems, processes, operations, numbers, insolvent figures, because I'm a heating engineer. And do you know what? I used to go to work, and I'm sure you did. Say, for instance, the company was down. I go to work and then give the company 70 grand of my savings, whatever I'd saved up, keep it going, then lose that money. And then the lads would be like, we'd go through when you mentioned the recession, you grew, I lost in the recession massively. I won't go into it, but a lot of money at the time. And I kept putting money back in, thinking that was the fix. It wasn't the fix. It's because my mindset was incorrect, because I was going around, you work for me, I was telling you how crap we're doing. I never praised you. I never did this, that and the other. And it just was a spiral downhill. Whereas now I've put them systems, processes and operations. And I've looked at companies like you, and I've looked at, because I'm thinking, well, how do British Gas do it? How do you do it? Because ultimately there is a secret, but I think the secret I've worked out is your mindset has got to be really on point. You've got to be, work-life balance has got to be kind of your life. And also the main thing, which I probably noticed for you, I woke up this morning at 3:30, because I was coming in, I was really excited. I knew that we'd click, and I hope we have, and very similar mindsets. And I practically would be getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I noticed when I spoke to you one morning, you've been in since 5. You probably don't necessarily need to be in at 5, but you come in at 5 because you probably get a lot more done when you're in that clear space you can see on your vision. Is that what you do it when you come in? What is your routine of a morning?
I've always been quite an early person, but then again, I still go to sleep sort of 10 to 11 at night. So I don't know. I've never set an alarm to wake up in the morning, and the day usually starts with a 3 or a 4, like 4:15 is like the most common time. I'll wake up and then you shower and you sort of bits out at home, and you're in. And I've always liked getting in and ahead. And I used to think, especially in the early days, all the competition's still in bed. Everybody's still,
Who else has said that to me?
And
That's so important what you just said. Somebody else said that to me. There's a really successful businessman. It'll come to me. Well, when I got up, everyone else was in bed.
Yeah, and it's true.
So you're making moves, basically.
And you're in here, and the whole industrial estate's quiet. I go to the gym 5 or 6 days a week, and the gym opens at 6, but I'll get into the car park for 5, and I'll sit on my laptop. Even though I'd been on it till sort of maybe 10 o'clock the night before, or 9 o'clock the night before, we're back on it again, because you'd have thought of things overnight, things would have popped into your head as you're getting ready, and you start just making sure your emails are tidy, the diary's tidy, if there's any proactive little tweaks need to go on, don't forget about this, jump on that, mention this. You kind of start getting everything padded out for the day to be as successful as it can be, and think of any potential problems you might need to overcome, or things that are in my day or somebody else's day, or trying to make things marry, or there's a problem here, there or everywhere. But I always want to get in, and I'll get in here really early. I do more in that time then than I will in the day, because the minute the phone goes on, or the minute there's people arrive.
I was looking for, actually, when you mentioned that, sorry to interrupt, it just made me chuckle. I was actually expecting to maybe see like a apartment in here where you actually lived. You know, you come in and live, because you technically, when you've told me this, and I've tried to research as much as I can of you, but to make it more natural when I met you, because I thought I need to know a little bit, but I don't need to know everything, because then it would have been too scripted. But I've come in here and it's blown me away. I mean, Izzy was saying it, we came in and we both, I still can't get over what I'm seeing in there. And it was just like one of the girls came in, and I was talking to her, and she was telling me she'd been here 3 years and how she's worked at other places, blah, blah, blah. And it's just this peacefulness of, if you come, I'd love you. If you came to my office, you'd see the phones ringing, you'd see the girl, and it's kind of an old way of doing things. This has massively opened my eyes. I've never seen anything like it, and it's a credit to.
Yeah, I mean, we've always tried to focus on like automation, tech, even put dimmer lights in the whole office to try and set a calmer tone. You came in my office earlier and it was like, it wasn't pitch black in there, but it's kind of, we've got the pods downstairs, and they're nice and private, soundproofed, and there's like areas of the building you can go and you can concentrate, you talk to customers, you can fix problems, you can get as a team. We've got 4-person pods with doors on them.
What give you your idea of those pods? What sparked that for you? What made?
So,
because they are about them, aren't they? I've seen them get more common.
Well, the two reasons. One is that the openness of the office, like our sales chaps need to have a private conversation with customers. They need to do video calls with customers, although I hate video calls for sales. And there's also like one-to-ones that go on. There might be somebody new start. So it's areas that people can go and have a bit of privacy. They don't need a dedicated office. Like we have the dedicated office. My mum's got one, I've got one, my wife's got one, Chris has got one. But actually, I was at Worcester Bosch and I saw,
I've seen them.
but they didn't have the doors on.
No,
them.
there's.
And I had a meeting.
Well,
in
they all
one.
have food, don't they? And
Yeah.
Is it on the way out to the train?
Yeah, that big atrium.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
And I had a meeting in there once a couple of years ago about something, and I was like, these things are brilliant. They're like, you feel like you're in a little cave. They're all like cozy, and you feel like you can just like proper get into your.
All you need in yours is a patio heater and a bar.
They've got their own little extractor system and these little. Yeah, they're really really good.
I when I saw them and Izzy said, we both went, that's really cool because have you got 4? Is there 4 there? It was the 4.
There's 2 of them, and they're 4 people each.
Yeah, sorry, 2 side, 2 6. Sorry, I get that. So ultimately, when I saw them, I thought that's really cool because one thing is when you're trying to speak to a customer, especially if you're in a busy office, which this is a very busy office, but I mean, because I was thinking the phones are not ringing, and I now know why, and what a fantastic idea, brilliant idea, by the way, and I'm going to do it, to be fair, because it's made me think that cuts out a lot of stress, because when the phone rings and rings and rings, it can be irritating, can't it? But the pods, when I've got a situation, I go in the back, but even in the back, you can still hear that.
Yeah.
And if you're a director, you'll know what I mean here. When you hear something, you can't help but go. You just can't help it. It's just part of us. Brilliant. Well done.
Well, it's the pods and the other areas downstairs. It was like we do with the engineers. You want to give them good kit. You want to give them good vans that's reliable. They can use their skills in the best possible way. Same with the office. If everybody's got really good computers that are fast, are quick, they don't pack up every 2 minutes, and they've got an area to go and be private, they can have calls, it kind of creates a much better environment. They can focus better on whatever it is that they might be doing, which might be quite detrimental or important to some kind of process or a customer's experience, whatever it might be. So we try to kit the office out the same way you kit a van out, that you've got everything at your disposal to be able to have your privacy and have good facilities. And we've invested, I know this is crazy, but we've got quite a showpiece coffee machine because we want everybody to have a.
Do you know what? Speaking of which, I would love one. Can we not get someone to get us one while we're on the podcast?
Yeah. I'm sure we can.
Give someone a shout.
But yeah, so like it was that same theory.
It's been like a massive eye opener me for this, because I've never been in something like this as well oiled as this, because I've seen other companies out there like us and how we do it, and I've watched different companies doing YouTube videos and stuff like that, and I know you've not done this overnight, but it feels like you have to me because I'm 47. It's like, obviously done that. I mean, it is a credit to you, and I'll go away from this thinking, right, this is what I need to do. Will I do it is another thing, ultimately, because going back to what I said, I need direction. I need to get my direction a little bit better and get my mind a bit more tuned into focus. The reason why I did the podcast is because I wanted to tell stories, but most importantly, I wanted to realise that I'm not on my own, so I can speak to people in situations like me. It's almost like people that are listening to this will be relating to loads of the golden nugget points that you're saying. They're like, shit, I'm relating to this, I'm relating to that. And hopefully they'll go away with positive, because I do believe that competition is really important, but I do believe it's also important to have your competition educated, so we're not all doing what we said at the very beginning, racing to the bottom, because the race to the bottom at the minute, if you ask me, boilers are the cheapest they've ever been to be fitted in your property since I've been doing it on the profit that we make. If you look at a Worcester Bosch, when I started, you could get a Worcester Bosch and 8 radiators and pipe work for about 700 quid. And the job was about 2,500. So when you look at that heating system that was 2,500, say it's 5,000 now, your kit's 2,500, your labour's, the money to value on the industry has come down. So when customers say to me, well, it's bloody expensive, yes, it is, but ultimately we don't make the boiler. We've got to pay a lot of money before we even get into the door. And I think that's really important to get out there to engineers and customers, that actually if you Google the stuff, because we encourage people to do that now. So if I'm quoting for a cheaper boiler, we try to fit Worcester Bosch only, but unfortunately we can't. And Worcester are aware of this. They brought the 1,000 out, that does help. I try to get them to Google the product, because if you go in for a boiler at 1,600 and then you go in for one at 2,500, if you know damn well, and I know, that you can get a product £100 pounds cheaper and tell the customer it's got a 10-year warranty. I don't think people, I don't know if you're aware of this. Worcester Bosch offer a guarantee. There's a fundamental difference between a guarantee and a warranty. I'm pretty sure you are.
Well, I know. I think Joe's just literally about to walk in. But see, So I've heard that said at Worcester like several times. Sorry, were you going to grab a drink?
Oh yeah, thank you. Could I have? Oh, this is great, brilliant service. Thank you.
Don't mind. So I've heard that at Worcester there is a difference between warranty and everything. Oh, it's a 10-year guarantee because they'll guarantee to whatever. But actually, later down the line, I read somewhere that actually they're much of a muchness. There isn't much. You offer a warranty.
There is, you know. Can I explain it?
Yeah, go on.
Right. So your car outside. There's a good example. What did you get on that when the manufacturer said to you?
So 4 years including servicing.
Yeah, guarantee. Right. Okay. So
I don't know, actually.
If you look at warranties, so a warranty is more of an insurance policy against a guarantee. What's insured in it? So like when we do our home care plans, we're not guaranteeing it. We're saying what's covered in our policy is this. So when you offer a warranty on a product, so like if you look at the cheaper manufacturers, they offer far more than 4 years. That car, do you see where I'm going with this? So they'll offer, say, a 7-year guarantee. One of the famous ones, warranty, is, so for instance, you take your vehicle in, and I've had this experience on a warranty. So you go in, and you say, my clocks are wobbling on my dash. Well, that's not a warranty issue. It's not covered that because it's the road. Great, my keys broke, that's not covered. My hinges are not covered, that's not covered. Because in a warranty, you have to break down the stipulation, what's actually guaranteed. So there's a lot of red tape within a warranty. Now, if I guarantee something to you, and I say, as long as you service this boiler, it's guaranteed. If it breaks, it gets fixed. That's including sludge in the system. Because if you know yourself, they'll come out, Worcester and show away. 5 years down the line, it's sludged up, the heat exchange is clogged. We did power flush it, but ultimately the system's 4-year-old. It's come again, it's come back round. We'll cover that once, replace it. You go to every other manufacturer, what they will do is they'll say, right, you need to get the system power flushed, then we'll change your heat exchanger, and we'll charge you. So that is the fundamental difference of a guarantee and a warranty. So where Worcester are pretty good, I've never had a Worcester say you can't do that. You know, you're a service partner like me, I've never had it. I mean, within reason, you know, but ultimately, if you look at the expensive cars, they don't ever come more than 4-year guarantee. That's extended that on yours, by the way, because I think it's 3 normally that. So if you look at Porsche, Audi, VW, Lamborghini, all the top end cars, Mercedes, BMW, they only ever offer a guarantee. But when you look at the cheaper stuff like Citroen and Fiat and all the others, they offer a warranty. And one thing what stood out in my mind was when you say you get older and your son wants a house, they'll never ask for a warrantor, will they? It'll always be a guarantor because you cannot get out of that. There is no terms, you've guaranteed it. So that's my understanding of it. Is there any listeners on there that know a bit more about this that can help us? But I personally think that that's the difference. I might be wrong, but that's my interpretation of it.
There we go. Learn something new.
And it's a great selling point if you're on our level.
Yeah, I mean, I used to say it a lot until I was led to believe that there wasn't anything too dissimilar between the two. But you know, maybe we should get back on that bandwagon of this is a guarantee. It's guaranteed.
100%. I mean, let's be honest. Like you'll go on out to something, and you just do it, don't you? Sometimes because you're like, even when I've had boilers out of guarantee. Have you? And it's been out of guarantee, and Worcester used to give you a lot more leeway, and that's tightened up because of economics and what's gone on and what we've been through, and especially with the marketing mechanism now, all the fines that they get in, they've stopped it for now. No, they've not stopped the fines, have they, for now? They've just stopped the £100 extra a boiler, haven't they, for now? Is that correct?
Oh, I think it's all stopped till the start of next year.
Which is going to be 6% apparently.
Nice.
So it's just
but then the heat pump market's growing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's a really good question. Up our way, we've no real market for heat pumps. I reckon more down this way, and the more you go south, you've probably got more affluent people that can afford heat pumps. So I do believe gas boilers are going nowhere, especially in the working towns, because you can't put heat pumps in the properties, a lot of them. I believe heat pumps have got the place in the market. I think new build, great idea. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I'm not so sure if it's for environment or the fact that we need to go self-sustainable. I'm a bit on the fence about that. But I think positively going forward, if you're going to be a heating engineer or a plumber, over the next 10 years is going to be interesting for you because there's going to be a lot of changes. You mentioned you want to be an electrician. Well, you probably will have to be some sort of electrician. Although I can wire S-plans, Y-plans, I can pretty much wire anything. I think they'll start to, you do your gas. They'll probably introduce some other crazy qualification that you've got to have to sustain your heat pump installations. They're safer, aren't they, I suppose? The carbon footprint's less. Well, it's not, I suppose, less at the minute until we get getting more and more greener energy coming in. Where do you see the heat pump market being in 25 years? What is your prediction?
In 25 years? Wow. So I think we're just like in that phase of life of no silver bullet answers there. Yeah.
Depending on today.
Yeah.
Today is a big day.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm not voting, so it's like...
Do you not vote?
No.
I don't vote. Do you know, I actually don't vote. Interesting that. Yeah, I don't. So today is a big day because the heat pump could all change overnight.
Well, it could, and that's the problem with like investing so much into a government.
Well, Worcester have done it, haven't they? Remember Worcester in 2009? They spent a fortune, and then Worcester are hemorrhaging. There are all these manufacturers are hemorrhaging cash into this heat pump. They need to give us more facts and figures and statistics and convince the public, including installers, that this is where we're going, because it's still hydrogen. Is it going to be heat pumps?
Hopefully, the development of like the hydrogen is develops.
There's a lot of work there, Custom heat will have to quadruple at that point, because they're saying that there'll be millions of boilers that will need to be changed over. And I don't know if it's rumoured. I don't know. You might be able to work me up on this. I've never got a straight answer. The current boilers that we're fitting for Worcester, the 8000, are they totally compatible with hydrogen? Have them heat exchange has been tested under hydrogen? Because I think they have, I'm not sure.
When it comes to product, I was talking to somebody the other day about heat pumps. I've kind of almost detached from a lot of that technical information now. I don't quote anymore. I don't know a lot of that information, so I don't know. I know they were hydrogen blend ready, and they had some issue with some
20%, isn't it? They can do up to.
Yeah,
roughly.
yeah. But I don't know the technicals personally on it. I've kind of detached from technical.
You don't need to, do you? To be fair, you can always ring me at any time you need any advice. I'm joking. I'm sure you have a well competent person in there, and ultimately that 25-year comment is you can't answer it, and that's the thing. I think that's the buying into it. I think some of the stuff that they're doing for us to buy into it will probably come out in years to come. That there's not. I mean, I did hear a rumor about a lot of the electric vans that have been purchased by the bigger companies have all gone back because they can't sustain them, because they're only doing 60 mile and the lads are charging. They're taking advantage.
If you drive up the road, there's a charging station and there's all these BT vans queuing up to get on charge. I'm just like, oh my god! Imagine somebody, I can't get to my last job. Oh, why not? Oh,
Van's not charged. That is another day for another podcast, to be fair. We could absolutely open that up and inside out and probably get in it. And interestingly enough, I am trying to get some manufacturers onto this if I can possibly. I'd love them to come on, and look, I'm not going to start slating anybody, and I am on your side, but it would be good to get some opinions and facts. Maybe not facts, because I don't think anything's factual at the minute. I don't think anything's factual in life, is it really? Because it changes that much and evolves. But ultimately, so you're growing the heat pump side. You did mention the air cons popped for you. You're doing very well with the air conditioning, because we've only relatively gone into that in 2 years, and we've only just started to market it. And now we know by outsourcing it to other engineers, we need it in-house now.
Yeah, I mean, air conditioning's been a big thing. I imagine in a few years it will plateau, it will level out, because...
As everyone's doing it.
Yeah, like at the minute, our competition for... Like you quote against a boiler, you've got tougher competition. It's not to say you can't win them with margin and a good salesperson, but with AC, I mean, it's like...
Yeah, but do you know, if you're ahead of the curve, which you are, and you did say it about price and stuff, that same mindset and method that you've used will work. In my opinion, that will continue to... I don't think you will plateau. I think the competition will come in. Because the thing is, people that are air conditioning engineers, as particularly, have never sold in houses. So they've got in their head, it's $250 for a day, and they're still way behind. Do you know what? You're laughing there because you why? This is my thing, because a lot of them are subcontracting. Now, that's not bad if you're going to come in and just do a job and get home for 2 o'clock and you're finished. As an engineer, you just turn up, do your job, get your wage and go. That's not bad, because you've got no commitment. You just got to fit it, commission it, and I'm off. That's the worry. What I'm saying is, because just exactly what happened with the gas. If you get a load of engineers that come into this that have not got any business acumen, there's going to be a definite plateau for a while, but it'll issue loads of problems. It'll come back.
Yeah,
so
I don't know. I mean, our industry generally is saturated with one-man bands. And then we had the COVID boom, and so many people set up on their own. That COVID boom
was amazing, wasn't it? I saw that with lads buying vans that were like, 60, 40, 50,000 pound vans. And I'm thinking, oh my God, you're paying £800 a month for that van. You don't even own it. It's all right now, because anybody who started in COVID could have grown very, very easily. Companies not as much, because a lot of the staff were furloughed, but one-man bands particularly. And if you'd laid your staff off because you couldn't get them in work, they was entitled to go and work. And there's nothing we could have done about that. And that was difficult.
And it's going on from like taking furloughed staff through to the back. We got such a demand off the back end of COVID. We had to come back in earlier. We planned to have that 1 month, then we said, oh, you better stay at home for another month. So, and then we were ringing lads up saying, actually, can you come back in? So
they got bored, didn't they, as well?
Well, yeah, a little bit. So we obviously...
How many outside taps did you fit in that boom? We fit loads. Loads and loads and loads. I couldn't believe it.
But it created a fake high. COVID created a fake high in the construction industry, and we'll now feel the backdraft of that, I think, for a year or two. Because...
Survive for 25, they're saying, aren't they, in the construction industry?
Yeah, all the work that you'd ordinarily have done over the next few years has been done in the last 2 or 3. And, a lot of businesses are quiet, and a lot of people are set up on their own. They're probably looking around for work.
Funnily, you should say that one of the lads who we subcontracts to us, he's looking at coming back, and we're looking into it with him. But it's crazy because it was great. I think everybody at some point needs to go on their own to realise that it is a lot more difficult.
You see, some lads are left and they've gone and subbed to someone. I don't really consider that going on your own. Because all you're just doing, you've still got to turn up at a time and finish at a time, do a certain amount of work. Somebody's telling you what to do. I don't think if you go on subby to one of the nationals, it's really going on box or something. You're just really going on your own. Going on your own is when you go out and you market yourself to somebody.
Can you imagine working for box? I mean, can you imagine, right, getting some of these lads to get 400 quid a day, I think it is. Now, if you look at the hours, what they do, so for instance, I might get a job, and how it works apparently, this isn't because I don't know box's model, I just know what engineers saying, that might not be truthful, but ultimately, you'll get a job that might be 2 hours away. You can't turn that job down because they'll stop giving you work if you just box it locally. So your diary could be that. So you're getting up 2 hours before you get to it. You get into an area with your kit. You don't know the area. So you get there. So you've set off at, say, you know yourself, a boiler swap. You need to be in out. So say it's technically, if you do job right, it should be in house probably about 5 to 8. Very, very, very minimum 5. It's dead easy, or 8 hours. Do you agree with that? Yeah. So to get all your process done. So they're setting off in a morning on hitting that traffic, so they say they've got to get to a specific area. Like I came down from Peterborough to here, we flew here, but we set off I think at 6:30. That got us an hour. So if you're travelling 2 hours, you'd have to get up at 5:30. So they get to you at 8 o'clock. They get there, some kit's wrong. Right, where's nearest merchant? Right, find nearest merchant. They go out to do that. They finish say at 3 o'clock. They hit prime time traffic that then doubles, takes them 4 hours to get away. So technically, this £400 a day, what they're getting isn't £400 a day, because they've got roughly about, if you're travelling 2 hours, you've got roughly 80 quid in fuel, haven't you?
Yeah.
And then take that of it, take your CIS of it, take your employers, your national insurance,
your contribution,
take your time out of it,
Yeah.
you're sick. You're probably looking at there less than employment wage, because some of these ETED engineers out there, myself included, and you probably did, insolvent we're talking about here, where I was making money but I was doing 100 hours to make that money. Now if I'd gone and got a job at Tesco's, now is it £11.44 now or something an hour? Yeah. At Tesco's, that means I'd have been on over £1,000 a week. So my point I'm trying to make is that some of these guys, they're going into the pub and earning this, but realistically, they're giving the time up for it. They're giving, you mentioned it about a brain surgeon, a plumber, whatever you can earn. If you can earn £100 as a plumber every single hour, you're smashing it, in my opinion, if you can actually earn that yourself. Because out of every £100, we probably only see about 10 quid, 15 quid, and you're probably the same. So ultimately, it's levels, isn't it? So I think going on your own.
Yeah, but I think for some people, it buys them a work-life balance. And I think work-life balance for some people is really important. And if you're financially secure and you're quite stable, that going and doing 3 days of box and having an intense 3 days, but then having 2 days to yourself, 4 days, what it would be to yourself.
What you're saying
buys
is
freedom.
I get you.
So it fits a certain type of people. But if you're looking to scale a business, going to these nationals is the wrong move. You've really got to focus.
I did a podcast about that actually.
Yeah,
I did one about that, and I weren't being offensive, but I mean, when Box first came out, it was a bit annoying because obviously I know the full story behind it.
I don't know why you get annoyed. What's they get annoyed about? Just let them get on with it. They appeal to the jobs that I don't even want.
You're correct, and I'll tell you what it was. It's the fear of missing out. It's your mindset going back. Now, where I am now, I'm not bothered, but then I was, because basically, you're absolutely spot on. You was way more ahead of me at that point, whereas I said to you, 2018 is where I was like, hang on a minute. So you've got to concentrate more on what you're doing, and because you can get obsessed with things that are going on around you, and that's a big problem. If you're trying to push a business forward and you're obsessed, you spend all that negative energy on that. And I've done it. I have done that. I've done that, with people that have left me and people that have come, and I consider myself as a lot different person than I was in 2018. You know, and that's when I started to change. I started to think, oh my God, and look at things differently and how things work. And you've obviously done that a lot, and that's why you're more successful, to be fair, because you've already recognised that a lot earlier.
I think there's different segments of our, if like breaking it down, of our industry. There are sort of new build and social housing kind of fitters, and that kind of fine with them. They get on with their thing. You've got companies that work just solely on price. Like, we have to be the cheapest price. And if a customer called us today and said, will you fit my boiler? Will you be the cheapest? Absolutely not. We will never be the cheapest. I don't want to be the cheapest. Go to Boxed or go somewhere else. If you're going for price, you've come to the wrong company. I openly tell the entire world that. And there's no problem with it. And then
That's the strength in your brand.
Yeah, and then you have the mid-range and the upper. And we appeal for rural detached properties. We do a lot in the Cotswolds. We do a lot in the Southwest. You know, our appeal is more doing things, more involved project. We do a lot of combi swaps. We did 2,500 boilers registered for our gas safe last year.
Boom! Yeah, give you congratulations. That's 2,500.
Yeah. And you think as well,
just combi swaps. Or mixtures, conversions,
boilers,
and things.
Yeah. And you think as well that all of them are private domestic customers. They're not like, it's not social housing contracts.
Well, you've got actually there, and you've just replicated another few engineers with 2,500 services.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing off of the back of it. So I hate the type of sales mentality where they say, oh, this person doesn't want to go ahead for a price. I bet in most cases it's got very little to do with the price. Oh, this customer doesn't want to go ahead because this other person's £200 more. I'm like, if you can't sell a job for £200 more and get our values across, then you really need to go back to selling school.
Do you know how you've said that? It's funny, I don't know if Izzy's listening, but ultimately, he's on it, this guy. Joe I've spoken to, he said the same thing. He preaches that, what you're saying there. He preaches that about the values. The company mentions cost of coffee. How do you get that cup and that cup of coffee, Rojo coffee, more expensive?
Yeah, but they're saying it, but they're then portraying it and doing it. Like, you could say, right, every quote I'm going to do now, I'm going to do 800 quid more because I want a better holidays, or I want a decent house, I want to pay my mortgage off, whatever it is. But you can't just turn up and do 800 quid more. No. You've got to have all
value. You've got to have value.
You've got to. The customer's got to see that within your business, the way that you conduct yourself, the way you talk, the advice you give, the clothes you wear, the van you drive, the whole perception of you before, during, and after a sale, how they found you, the way they perceived that when they saw you, the way that you built trust within that person to even want to get a quote, for them to then for you to turn up at the door, for you to look professional, smart, knowledgeable, you know what you're talking about, you give good advice, you're not pushy. Like going back to saying, oh, I've had a quote from so-and-so, without saying I don't give a fuck, I'd say I don't give a fuck, but in a polite, professional way. And I would, if somebody said, oh, I've had two quotes, they're both £2,000, and I worked mine out and it was £3,000, I'd be putting in a £3,000 quote. The two means nothing to me. And we'd still, not every time, but in most cases, win the work, because we've put all the effort into making sure the customer can see the value in us. I never say to a customer, oh, you'll get a good job. Premium heating, all these stupid names, these customers, these companies, premium. If you'd have to tell your customer you're good, then you're shit, because the customer should see that you're good. You should not say a single sausage out your mouth. It should come from how the customer views you on your web, through your marketing, through the way that you communicate with them. They just think, wow.
Yours is so clear as well. Your message is so clear. I looked at our service plans and I looked at yours, and I was like, I've probably been doing this a little bit wrong here, because the clarity comes from when British Gases is very good when you see theirs as well. It's clarity, how you see it. So I could put loads of whistles. I've done it, whistles and bells and loads of bullshit that attracts your eye and takes you away from the actual decision making of those sales. So I've now realised that we're going to go back a little bit. We've gone back a little bit now to where we're going to go forward. We've had to come back a little bit and have a really good think.
Yeah, sometimes you've got to do that.
And that's what we're doing.
We've done that ourselves. We've got to a point where we've got such a focus on margin. We have to return. And my wife, who joined business, she spent 8 years training to be a chartered psychologist. She went to a smart school out of merit, not because she bought the way in. She's a very intelligent person. She joined the business, and she's had such a focus on our accounts, dealing with our accountants, and portraying our business in simple terms, because I'm not terribly intelligent. And
I disagree with that, by the way.
and actually, we're making changes that are positive changes, because we know where our spend's going. Like the business it made a good amount of money the COVID years. The work eases off. Your commitments are still high. Your money coming in still low.
You've got to switch, haven't you, with that strategy?
And I'm so grateful that my wife's there because she's provided this level of clarity across our business. And going back to years and years ago when I first took over from my dad, I said to myself in my head, well, I'm going to run this, because when we went insolvent and the accountant almost told me off like I was in school, and I said to myself in my head, I'm going to run this business like I'm an accountant. And not that I'm an accountant or I even know the first thing, but I started to really try drill down on figures and my outgoings and incomings, and we have to have more coming in than going out. How many hours a week do we work, a day, a month, a year? And started to really sort of pad out a clear understanding of my costs. We had a bathroom company come in with a brochure. Oh yeah, here's the brochure. That mirror there, you get 40% off that, so you've got a good margin in that. I was like, why the hell are you dictating the margin we get off a customer? Like, we sell product for what we pay for it. People think I'm nuts. So we get a boiler for 800 quid, I'll sell it to a customer for 800 quid, but I want £100 for every solitary hour that man's in that house.
Bang right, yeah.
So the customer can never go away and go, oh, I can get that boiler cheaper, number one. And
we do that, you know.
And secondly, your control of your margin is absolutely vital. Like, you've got so much money going out. You know what it is. Like, ours a month, I don't know, £500,000. And you know that goes out every single month, and you know you have to generate X amount in. You know you've got X amount of engineers that work X amount of hours. So they have to earn X amount of money every single hour. And
you told me though, like yours you set like 8,000 jobs a month in peak. That's this, and that is for my brain to ascertain how much is going on there. And I wouldn't even say like your team's in here is massive. It's just down to how you've fine-lined how to make this work. That's incredible. You know, that in itself is like, but you said it like, because I was like, you know, you've got, say, 70 vans, that one job a day, that makes 70 a day. Because that's the first thing I said, about 70 a day. And then I recalculate with a split seconds of saying it, thinking that's the most stupidest comment I've ever made. Because I know this model and I know what it can do, but 8,000, I'm like...
That was peak. It's not now. I mean, it definitely has tailed off, the COVID
But
boom,
to be fair,
yeah.
It's cool. That's fine. Because ultimately what's going to happen is, I do believe this is cycles. I do believe you're right with COVID. That was my theory always along. Companies that grew and got bigger and put investments and put more vans on the road and committed and never, ever, ever, especially the younger boys, had never done a recession. So I've done a recession. I know exactly what that entails of. So if you've got overheads now, it's hard to... Because, I mean, it's kind of like... If you've got a business, your baby, you don't want it ever to fail. And it's also, you don't want to go backwards because it's embarrassing. You feel like you've let yourself down, you've let your team down. And
I don't know. I don't want, if the work dries up to nothing, I don't like the idea of saying to people, we don't have work, we can't employ you anymore. But on the same hand, you just got to do what you need to do. And
if you're saying that, everyone's saying it, simple as that.
And
it's so good that you've said that and you've been open about that, because that's one thing what people never say. There's a lot of people that are stressed out in their mind and they come and they put these sets on. You've been really honest and I appreciate that, because people listening to this out there will be like, shit, I'm down 25% and it's just me, because other people are talking shit and saying they're doing this and this, putting all over Facebook, blah, 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 we're doing this. Now, fundamentally, the insolvent bit, I've run it insolvent, and I will do again if I have to do, because ultimately, now when I use that word, insolvent, I mean because I'll run at a loss if I'm putting into a growth and I can see an end goal. If I was running at a loss with no growth, then I would really seriously think about it again. So there's different parts of when you look at companies. If you look at some companies that are insolvent, but they're worth millions because of what they're doing and what the end goal is.
And their insolvency, or their lack of funds, or the fact that they've not made any money, is due to the fact they've pumped so much into infrastructure or systems or processes that then springboard them into a much stronger position in 2 or 3 years' time. It's just what you fundamentally know. When you've got a plumbing and heating business, you have that feeling within you over a certain number of years that you know when you're not making money.
Have you read the point where you've got, let's just say 100? I know it is. So you've got 100 grand at the end of the month in your bank, and you think you're a big boy, and then first comes and you've got about 10.
Yeah,
it's like boom, gone in.
It's the same here. Like we could take a significant amount of money in, but a significant amount plus a bit more needs to go out. Yeah. It's exactly the same. It's
a bit bigger numbers, bigger problems.
Yeah, I mean, your earning potential increases massively the more engineers you've got. There's no doubt about it. But keeping it consistent, keeping everybody busy every hour of the day, that's where the challenges lie, because you only need a certain number of that team to fall below. They're paired up with somebody because they haven't got working that day, or this person's off sick, so it's that person, then they're on holiday. At the end of the week, you've only invoiced X amount when you should be up here, and then things start to play a part in this, cash flow. I've noticed the biggest problem is
cash flow. Absolutely.
We used to, before we bought this office, we used to have a little office up the road. It's like an ex-sweet shop. It was like literally the size of this room. It was really small. And, we would get to the end of a month. We'd be like, we spent 30 grand at Plum Centre this month. And we'd all be like, oh, it's amazing. Oh, that's like the highest we've ever had. That was like an October, 2000 and something, 11 or something. And we just
Yeah, but let's be fair. Let's be fair and let's not forget. That is still quite a lot of money for somebody.
Yeah, but we're talking this is peak during growth. But now the figures you talk are just absolutely crazy. And you owe all this money. And if you sit and think about it, it's more than the cost of a house that you owe somebody within a few days. It can be crazy levels of money.
Your wage bill and everything, the contribution, the pensions. It's actually never ending, is it? But to be fair, I wouldn't change it for anything. I think the ambition you've got is like really amazing. And like I said, I told you that this podcast would not go to plan as I planned it. We'd talk about everything but we've planned. But we've covered a lot of stuff. And I am quite aware that people are probably thinking, you know, they're listening, how long are we doing it now, is it? An hour and a half. So I kind of think of statistically, we should be wrapping up probably in about 10 or 15 minutes because people are probably getting to the point now where they're tired.
They've dozed off.
And they've dozed off. Because, like I said, I could go on all day about the subject because I'm passionate about it. But the main purpose is to get everybody on board and start listening to these things. And hopefully, everybody will get a clarity on what it takes. Because I think some of your customers look at exactly what you said. Flash car, nice house, this, that, and the other. But what they don't understand, you fucking deserve it. I'm sorry for swearing, you really do deserve it. Because the thing is, the people who hate on people are the people that don't really understand it. And if they did understand, you'd ask themselves, well, would you commit to that? You know, would you commit to that?
I've said the same thing. I bought a car recently and there was a few comments about, I'm just working so we can get that. I heard it through the managers. And so I've always openly said to anybody that works, meet me in this office at 4 o'clock in the morning and do 1 week with me. I should do 1 week, including the weekends, just one solitary week with me. And if you can do it, then great. I have my car. Because I'm here at 4 odd in the morning. I'm still going at 10, 11 o'clock at night. I do it every single day of the week, including the weekends. And I'll give you an insight into really how difficult a business can be and how time consuming it can be, how it can take over your entire life.
It's addictive, isn't it? 100%.
Yeah, it is. There's good parts to it, but equally, and I think there's pressures around employment and pressure around, you know, upset customers or anything that might go on. But the biggest pressure, the silent killer, is the financial pressure. It's the money that you owe out. It's the fact that that's the one that's
a job within itself. Yeah. That might, see, for instance, this is when I've had this condition. They've said it's probably, you know, stress doesn't help. But you've hit the nail on the head. I'm like, you've just mentioned a house there, and I smiled because ultimately, my debt can be that, and we're only doing. What we're doing a tenth of what is it? Yeah, but that's a tenth of what you're doing. And I can know at the end of every month, we do about, I'm pretty certain last year we do £500,000 in materials. So if you divide that up, I know it's not all equal splits, but it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money that you've got to find. And there's some months where, summer particularly now, where everybody's down on sales, but your overheads are the same. So you've got to factor that in to winter when you're doing your money with your lads, etc. And, you know, our lads are brilliant, but they can't help being sick. They can't help the flu. And when we get a couple off, that's a killer because one of the big things, you'll probably agree with this, if you've got engineers that are doing a job, it's not like if you work in an office where you can say, I'll shut off at 5 and I'll catch that up and I'll be able to get... When you're an engineer, you don't turn up to someone's house. They don't get their heating working. They don't get anything. They give you a bad review and they go somewhere else and you lose that work forever. That is the fundamental difference in what we do. There's a lot of pressure. And, you know, sometimes I'm up, like you say, and I'm up at this morning at 3 and I'm looking at stuff and I'm trying to improve all the time. And the biggest silent killer is bang right. And it's not just in our industry that I think that goes to every single business owner. Cash flow is very important. And sometimes it's not flowing as we predict because we can't predict everything. We've got an understanding of the industry, but you've been in it long enough as I have. This is probably lower than it's been for a while, but this shit has happened before. And some of these lads have never experienced this. And what they've done is they've overspent. Yeah. And that's what's going to kill them. But yeah, I think the biggest stress is 100% definitely financials. Forget everything else.
And
you're
I think
right.
it's because a lot of companies, I mean, almost every probably don't fully understand their finances. They don't know what's coming in and going out, and they don't.
We think we do, don't? I mean, you do. Yeah, but you need to have a team to do that.
It's actually really difficult to track. It's a difficult thing to be on top of.
It is because you get the month.
Yeah, where you've got 30-day accounts, and then you've got credits, and you know, it takes you a while to actually get a completely true picture.
They reckon it takes you, don't you, to get an accurate picture. You never can really 100% predict, but if you get a good accounts for 12 months, then you can kind of predict the year in front. But like if you look at a month to month to month to month, that's hard. Even though you get your monthly accounts, that's hard to predict as well because you might have 20 grand order here and then it comes in that month and then that one comes out or you spent. I totally get it, and I only get it because I've spent trying to understand. My mentor Chris, he teaches me about this. My accountant's great, but he's not got the time to teach me. I just give him the figures. You probably do. You don't, because your wife does it. But ultimately, bringing it in house is what I would like to do. But I just simply can't afford it. So I factor it out to a company at about £1,000 a month, and they do everything for me. And we have monthly meetings and stuff. And I've learned so much how important that is, because it scares the shit out of me when I see what I owe on a card. So I use like cap on tap so I get the points. I don't know if you use anything like that to get the points. I'll tell you all about that later, because this will be something that you will be interested in. But I use companies and I use the credit cards to gain the points and set it up with the suppliers to give an income. So for instance, if you're spending on your limit, for instance, you can make 1% of your spend. So if you buy 20 grand worth of stuff, you've got 200 quid in an account that they will put into your account that's been taxed, and then you can take your family on holiday. So for instance, you could be earning £20,000 and getting 30 days. As long as you pay it within that 30 days, getting those points, which then gives you the money that you can use on your family. Because if you need to use it on your business, that's great. You've got it there just in case you can pay it off. But there's particular cars out there where they're charging you, me and you take a car payment, which costs us 1.9%. They give you 1% of that back on your spend as long as you pay it on time and charge you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get
so
it.
That's how they do it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think personally, what I'm realizing is that there's lots of little things in businesses, especially big businesses, which this is a fairly sizable business. I know it's only, you're over 50 staff, so it's fairly sizable. So ultimately, if you're spending 10 and you can spend £5 million on this card, that's 50 grand, isn't it? Extra income to you personally. So I'll talk about that later to you. But ultimately, there's loads of little things out there. A lot of the internet companies that sell you leads, and as you'll notice, they'll buy the leads, resell them onto you. They're all buying on these cards because they're making low margins on high turnover. They're probably making more on these bloody cards that they're using to pay for the leads than they are actually on the product.
Nice.
So yeah, it's just a little tip. That. And if anyone else is listening to that, it really does work. But it's no point if you're spending 10 grand a month, it's not a lot. But if you're spending what we're spending, it's definitely worth it, because you can treat your family to stuff and you can buy things, and it's tax-free money. And yourself, you'll be highly taxed. So ultimately, I think you should look at doing that.
Nice. Great.
Have you got anything to add now before we wrap this up? Any tips for any of our little one-man bands starting up, or any tips for anybody that's medium-sized, or do you think it's just down to focus and stay in your own lane, get your marketing right, and just to pay attention to your numbers?
Tips would be, so we've seen the biggest gains from focusing attention on customers' experience. So not focusing on, I can't get this job in, and the engineer experience, or anything really to do with that side of it. Everything, put yourself in your customer's shoes, walk through the services you offer, and how easy is it for that customer to get that service that you offer. So we've had a lot of focus on that, hence the automation, the tech around the website, and other bits and pieces that go on. And if it's somebody new starting out, there's two forms of starting out, in my opinion. One is subbing to big nationals, which basically you're still employed. You're just probably buying a bit more for your freedom.
Do you think, quick touching on that, do you think at the end of the day, like they did with Uber, do you think the government are going to get wise to this very soon and say, hang on a minute, you're subbing to them, you're employed?
Yeah, I think so. It is really,
because they're losing on tax, aren't they? A hell of a lot of tax.
Yeah. It is really another form of, you're paid differently, aren't you?
Yeah.
But if you're, if there's a company starting out and your focus is on your private domestic customer base, where you go out and you up against other heating firms and you're stood in the house trying to win work, that is the most profitable one to go. And don't ever work on price. Just work on quality and your image and the way you look and the way you talk.
At the beginning you may have to work on price?
No.
So the tips, you reconfirming everything that I believed in, to be fair.
Yeah, I would never turn up to a customer's house in a flashy car. I'd go in a really clean, tidy, polished van. I'd put some nice, shiny shoes on. I'd look like not like an estate agent. Sorry for any estate agents, but I'd look like somebody that's a professional the kind of person you want in the house. Be engaged, be an expert in your field. The more you know about the product, the better you can advise. Don't tell people what they want. Ask them what they like, and then offer suggestions around it. Just stuff like that. And I don't take an interest in other plumbing. I'm having this quote, that quote,
or anything.
Yeah, just focus on you and what you're offering and the level of service you offer out. Don't tell people you're good verbally. Tell them through the way that they see you, through your marketing.
Fantastic. Yeah. Anyway, thanks very much, and thanks for having me down here, and it's been great to have you on. I appreciate your time because I know you're a busy man. So any guys out there that want to reach out to us, basically you can drop a message direct to us. You can contact us on any of the social platforms. Just get in contact, give me some ideas, what you want to know about, what we can talk about. Any other companies out there that are small, medium, large, want to reach out to us, they might be interested in telling their story, telling their vision, etc. I'm just trying to build a community of people that can talk with manufacturers and just make the whole experience in our industry more doable and more enjoyable. I really enjoy doing this, and for me to continue to do these shows, I really would like it if you like and subscribe everything that I'm doing. And also, guys, don't remember, this is really, really important. Continue what you're doing, continue working hard. Links give you some, you know what I'm calling you, Link? Yeah. Has given me some amazing advice. I'm going to go away from this and get my reading glasses on and, you know, have a look at my own business of what I've spent the time with him. I think the main message is here, guys, is if you're going to do this and you want to move forward in your business, there's one more important thing. There's other people out doing it out there that will do it, and there's people that are, you know, if you're thinking of doing it, concentrate on your own business. Get your head down and you'll make it. Dedication, hard work. Forget what the Instagrammers are telling you and stuff like that. And mindset that you can, you know, wish it into your life. What's the word they're saying at the minute? If you
fake it till you make it. Is that what you're saying?
Kind of, yeah. There's a word for it. Very, very prominent at the minute. Manifestation. Manifest it. Now, I believe in manifestation. Great. But you can't manifest something unless you take action. So my message is just work hard. I believe that anybody who's persistent, turns up. It's a bit like the gym, isn't it? You've got a gym membership. If you don't use it, you just get fatter and fatter and fatter. Simple as that. You can't just join a gym, put the hard work in. And remember, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if there's anything that you can help me with, I'm really interested to see, not just in the plumbing industry, any other industries out there that would like to talk about their business. I would come down to the business and do what I've done today. I'd really appreciate that. And anyway, the most important message today is do not get left out in the cold, guys. It's been great having you on, and thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Mate.
Thank you. Take care, guys.